2023 Reston Bike Century. This is going to be the 40th annual Reston Bike Century, so I thought that was pretty cool. Classic event down in Reston, Virginia. It is on August 20th. Start time is 6:30 a.m., and if you are one of the heavy hitters planning to race this course, you need to be ready to ride at 6:30 on the dot. So in reality, if you want to get there a little bit early, get set up, 6:20 should have you towards the front of the corral or near the beginning of it, which is even better here. It's in the Reston Town Center Pavilion. We have about 650 people registered for it already. Packet pickup, you have a couple of options to do that. A quick note that you must pick up your packet pickup from one of these locations beforehand, and there is no packet pickup on race day. They might update that, but I would plan on picking things up the days preceding that. Just be advised. Your wristband must be picked up and t-shirt prior to the ride. That's usually the case, and I don't expect it to change this year. So without further ado, let's dive into a couple things here. First, to note, this is the 2022 bike course, same as the 2021. There usually is a slight change here and there, but they just don't have it posted up. But it should stay relatively similar to this year, and if they do have a major change, I'll kind of recreate this for everyone. So, a couple of quick things to note here. Right off the bat, we have 100 miles. We have 5,300 feet of elevation gain, or about. Coming out of the start, we have the first 10-ish miles, 12-ish miles. Feeling pretty good. It's net downhill before we start climbing up here, and this is going to be the point at which most people's legs start to feel it, and then this mile 30 climb is really where people start to get a first big hit of what is to come. After that, again, we're still steadily climbing. So for those first 50 miles here, after the first 10, it's steadily uphill, and there's a lot of punchers in here, which we will dive into in a second. Before we start a little bit of recovery, before we have two major hills here, one back here, another right over here, before we climb back up to the bike path area, and before we dive back down and head into the Reston Town Center once again. So let's talk about this a little bit more in depth, coming from the very beginning here. This is our best bike split of our Joe rider that we have here. We have a weather reading that is completely erroneous here, so ignore the wind here. Typically when you have this ride, the wind blows in one of two directions, and that is this way or this way out on course. There might be a slight variation of that. Also, you can expect some wind swirling out there while you are on course. Elevation here is the same that you have seen. Speed is a big indication of what is going to be happening during this race. Start off a little bit lower, slowly start to ramp it up as we get to mile 60. There are some heavy hitters mixed in there, and then after that, it is pretty steady state up into the finish line. Of course, pack dynamics are going to play a big deal with this race. So when you can be around someone, that is going to benefit you a ton. So let's dive into specific race tactics and what is going to happen at this race. Now, for those first 10 miles, you're going to come out of the gate swinging. So let's highlight these first 10 miles here. And this is, follow that dot as we go out. We're zigging and zagging through Reston, and we are going to slowly make our way north before we turn south here. As you can see, there are a couple of 3%ers in here. Nothing major as of yet, aside from this first big hill, which you do at before mile 1, which isn't going to be a main factor because you're going to be around people anyways, so you're going to naturally go up that a little bit faster than you need to. And then for those first couple of miles, there's two real group schools of thought. The first school of thought when you're dealing with this Reston Century is let's fly, right? The second one is let's just get through the stoplights, the signs, get everyone ready, and then let's hit this later on. All right, and if you are not one of the front runners or trying to set a monster PR on a course like this, I would take these first couple of miles to get your legs set. Be careful when you're going through the traffic lights, the stop signs, all that good stuff before you are ready to navigate the meat of the course here. And that kind of starts at mile 10 right through here. So we're going to highlight this next big section, and you can see here as we're following. I'm going to undo that so we can see here. Follow the dot. You will see that we keep our we keep zigging and zagging, and we keep going up through Leesburg before we start one of the most famous loops in this course, or in this area here. So for these first couple of miles, they're a little bit choppy. You do have some aid stations here, and as you climb up through this little section on the bike path here with the barbecue pit right there, you do have the opportunity to hit this aid station right here. Okay, aid station 1 and 5 is going to be a double hitter here. I would encourage you to get that aid station, because the next one out on course for you is going to happen right here at mile 36-ish, 36 and a half, right there. So even if it's a quick stop, I would hit it unless you are one of those front runners ready for a PR, or ready for that win here at the Reston Century here. Going back to our best bike split power output here, this is the power that you will be seeing, and it's pretty steady throughout the day. It has a mix of ups and downs. Category climbs on this course, we have 20 Category 4 official climbs, and if the group that I want you to look at is this duration right through here. Obviously, we have the two big ones, Taylorstown, which is going to be that 8.5 minute one, and Stumptown, which is a 6:30 right through here. Aside from that, it is going to be under 2.5 minutes for the majority of these at least categorized climbs, and that's not to say that there are only 20 out here on course, but there is only 20 officially categorized climbs out here. Because of that, it is going to be a up and down day. Athletes that are going to be successful on this course are going to be ones with high VO2 maxes and their ability to just recreate that power again and again and again. People who are heat adapted are going to benefit as well here. You could see here at mile 20-ish, right, temperatures scheduled to be about 70 degrees with the humidity in about 100 range. And again, this is going to completely change and get more accurate as the race arrives here. So if you want me to do your specific one, as it gets closer, let me know, and I'll be happy to do that for you. As you're going through these pack dynamics here, the first real area that someone is going to make a huge move usually happens at mile 30. There might be some other sillier moves mixed in here, and anyone that goes up the road with one or two guys at this point in the race, just let them go here. If you are towards the middle or the back, you would be advised to sit with a group as long as possible and get up this bigger hill that everyone's going to be talking about. But if we do highlight this bigger hill, climbing up, right, it is not really a big hill at all. This is 2% as it maxes out, and it says 2.5 at the very end there. So again, this isn't an overly aggressive hill, it's just a steady state hill. A very classic one for someone to just slowly start to turn the screws. Typically you'll have 3 or 4 people drop off the bigger groups at a climb like this, right? And it's just one where you can't really drop people, but if you slowly keep that tempo where it is, you're going to naturally have a couple people falling off. This is going to be the moving section out on course from mile 33 over to mile 51 here. This is going to be the point in time where a lot of people can get dropped or leapfrog up the road to a different group here. If the wind is howling on that day, then be advised, I would just stay with the group. If you do want to head up the road, you would probably benefit a group of 3 or 4 or 5 even to help bridge the gaps up the road here. Classic area, you're going to ride that bike path almost to the very end. You're going to hang a right. And then it's going to be pretty rocky up and down. It's going to hit you very hard, and it's just going to be nonstop from here on out. And that's just the way it is riding back here. The wind is going to play a bigger factor as well during this point in time. Once you hit this aid station out in Lovettsville, I believe it is at the 7-Eleven right out there. Yep, I believe it is at that gas station there. Again, I would advise you to do that. If it's not at the gas station, it's probably going to be at the school over there before you start to head out to the major portions, which everyone will be talking about here. Another classic section for you is this one right through here. It is usually a harder one out on the course. It's going to be one that people are going to go harder than you want them to if you are vying for one of those top spots or a PR. This is another easy area for people to get dropped off or spat out at the back. It's coming right off of the aid station, so if you did stop, your legs had a chance to recover a bit, and it's a hard start here, so be ready to roll out of this aid station. If you count these hills up here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And 6 for good measure at the very end here. So count them up, 5, 6 hills, and then you will make that sharp right-hand turn. You should be going a little bit slower anyways, and you will be headed on to Taylorstown Road. Quick thing to note here on Taylorstown Road, let's unhighlight that so you can get a good gauge of what is about to come. And let's highlight all the way around this loop right through here. One of the biggest keys out on course, and once you make that right hand turn that we talked about a little earlier, it's going to dump you down and the speed is going to be high. It's going to be a fool's errand if you do attack at this point in time trying to bridge or get away from a big group. They will naturally just drift back to you, especially towards this downhill section. And now if you want to create some separation out on course, go for it, but just know that you're not going to get a minute during this section right through here, especially if you're a lighter rider. The heavier rider are going to be attacking or going naturally faster into this climb right through here, just so they can have a little bit more buffer out there. So if you are looking to shed a heavier climber, Taylorstown Climb is a great place to do that. And again, when we look over here, it starts proper at mile 61 and goes to mile 62.3. So a little bit over a mile, not quite a mile and a half, but somewhere in there, and it bites aggressively, especially right through here. We have a 10% max grade, and that lasts for a little bit of time before it slowly calms down at 9 and 8.5 before it goes back up to 9.5, and again at 10 towards the very top before it cools off. Again, if you're a lighter rider, I would be targeting one of these hills to springboard or get away from people, but again, you don't want to get away solo at this point in time. You want to be able to have 3 or 4 solid people with you. Here we are at mile 62, so there is a good chunk of change left to rock and roll. After that, we drift down here, and there is an aggressive downhill, so be aware you do slide back and forth. There is not quite a switchback in there, but there is a sharper turn when you're going some of those speeds that you will be over there. So faster riders, beware and just watch out for that left-hander before it dumps you down, and it will be a fast turn, okay? After that, you take I think it's a right here, and it is one of my favorite climbs in all of Northern Virginia. It is the climb up to Stumptown here. Most people don't get a chance to ride it because you have to go up Taylorstown to get there. This is a classic climb over here. You are going to make a right-hand turn, and the climb is going to officially start. Not a whole lot going back there, and it is going to be hot, okay? If there is a lack of wind, this is a humidity trap at this point in time, so be ready to hydrate yourself, dump yourself off, get yourself as cool as possible before climbing up this hill. And again, when we look at the whole thing here, you can afford to dump a little bit extra water because that next aid station happens just a little bit ways up the road here. Let's highlight it just a little bit more so you can get a full gauge of where that aid station happens. This is going to happen at mile 73.7 or 74, depending on your tracker and what's going on that day. And the hills that we just talked about starts at mile 65. So you only got 10 miles to get there, not a lot. And again, this is going to be another section where it just hits you again and again and again. Once you ride through Waterford, it's going to be great riding through there. You take this right-hand turn, and again, another right-hand turn, and it bites at you, and it is aggressive here. Another classic area where people just totally implode on a day like today. And these hills, if you're looking at it, it's 6.5%, but they don't last for very long, right? And it's not that the hills back through here aren't super aggressive. It's everything you've done up until this point. So if we highlight this section here, of our 5,300 feet, we've already done 3,800. So it is going to be a management area. Just you're going to have to manage your effort up until this last section here. So let's highlight our last big section here. Going through Waterford, we make that right-hand turn, and it's up and down and up and down and up and down. Be ready to work at this point in time because you will be doing a lot of it here. Okay, well, you will dump down, and again, this is another classic area out in Northern Virginia. You go over here, you don't cross under the overpass here. You take a left right before on Irene, and this is another area where people will fly. Take a stop at that aid station. Please, please, please. People are going to be really crushed from those other two massive climbs that we talked about earlier. Those are the bigger ones out on course. And again, this is another area where you are going to have to go after an aid station. Some people might skip this one. Even so, you're going to have to be on your toes here. Once you head up Irene, you're going to make this right-hand turn, and this is going to be an area where you have a headwind. Mark my words, it's a notorious place for that. Hills are not going to be super aggressive here. They're going to be steeper than you want. Again, you have a 7.5% right through there. So it's just going to be a little bit more than you want before you dump back down towards Dry Mill Road here. But getting to there, it is a little bit much. Now again, before we kind of keep going here, you can see that this blue section is the section that we are talking about here. That is going to be what we are doing. You are crossing over the bike path on the way down, or at least you typically do. At least in years past. Another classic area where people fly, and I highly encourage you to let them do the work here. Let them do the work. There's no reason for you to go crazy at this time here, and if you see a group of 4 or 5 people really putting the power down, just sit on them, let them fly here. This is where people cannot help themselves on Dry Mill Road. They go very fast, right? And rightfully so, it feels good, but then afterwards you start to kick up again. You will continue to navigate yourself through all of these. You go through Lansdowne over here, and this is another classic area where if we highlight it and we and if we select it and max it in, you can see that again these hills are not aggressive, right? But after 85 miles of riding, it's a lot here, and these 4.5, 5%ers are going to feel double. They're going to feel like they're taking everything out of your legs, coupled with the fact that it is going to be approaching probably 85, 90, or at least it typically does. This is another area where those miles leading up to this point in time of managing your power, pace, effort, all of that good stuff is going to come in handy because you'll be able to really uncork it, and this is one of the last big sections that you have the ability to do so, because after mile 91, if you look through here, this is the last big aid station, mile 92. You're on the bike path after that. You're on the bike path, you're going straight in there, and look, this is just a slight incline, and depending on what the wind is doing, this can feel like a mountain that will not end. Pack dynamics are going to play a huge part of this, and if you are a part of the group, allow them to really do the work for you and pull you in from mile 94.5 all the way to mile 98. All right, so that is a longer stretch than you want to, and again, the incline isn't going to be aggressive here. We're talking 1-ish%, right? Maybe a little bit more in some places. But this is a unique area where you can attack on race day and actually create some significant separation. You want to loosen the group up leading up to that, mile 82 to mile 86, 89, really, that's going to be where you're loosening the group up, getting rid of people who shouldn't be there, or just people that are hanging on, right? And then after that, right, this is the first area where you can make a little bit more of a selective selection. And then after that, this hill right here, right at the top of it, is an easy place for you to just slide away, right? And then, of course, the last big place you're going to do it is leading up to there. Word of caution, though, when you do this, this is the W&OD trail right through here. Sometimes the race finishes in this part right through here. So if I were you, I would call it quits after you cross the Reston Parkway, because sometimes you do have to zigzag your way up through one of these other areas, and it's not the best riding through this trail right through here. It's a trail access. So just be safe out there on race day and make sure you know where the start, stop, finish lines are. I would expect that they do post the 23 version of the Reston Century, but this is a classic course, one of the best out there, and enjoy all the support and people you got out there on race day. So have a blast, and if you want me to run your numbers specifically through some of our software here, we can absolutely do that. So one last thing here, power plan. Again, if you wanted to go a little bit faster here on race day, let's just keep it at 10 so it's easier to see. Again, what you really want to be targeting are these smaller hills right here, and this time save of 12 seconds for a 2-minute span, that's really what you want. Those add up over and over and over again. Most people are going to chase things like this, but again, that segment is 7.5 minutes long for a 26-second gain. If you pick off 4 or 5 of these other smaller ones, you should be able to get that no problem. And if you are with the group, just let them pull you up there. So again, if you have any other specific questions, let me know, and I'll be happy to run through all of this with you on an individual basis. Good luck, everybody, and have a blast. It's one of the best.